Hey guys, Jeffrey from Headstrong Training Systems here. So today we're going to be looking at the squat, and in particular we're going to be examining the impact that your foot stance, so where you place your feet, how wide you place your feet, the direction you place your feet, how that can impact your knee travel and your hip travel, and how your squat movement can look like. So basically the theory is the more narrow your stance is, so if say I'm squatting for example, I'm in my starting position, the more narrow your feet are placed, the more knee travel there's going to be. And so with that, the more ankle mobility is going to be needed. Now in that position, that's more ideal for your high bar squatters. That's just the general theory. It's obviously different for every athlete. Some people might prefer to squat very narrow for a low bar squat and vice versa. But in general, the theory is for a high bar squat, because more knee travel and more ankle mobility is needed on a high bar squat, generally lifters prefer squatting more narrow stance. And because with that, essentially, narrow stance, more knee travel means greater quad recruitment, which is perfect, which is ideal for the high bar squat, because in the high bar squat we know one knee travel, one more upright torso. And the vice versa is true. Say you're squatting in a low bar squat, you would squat with a wider stance, because in a wider stance, that reduces your knee displacement. That reduces the amount of knee travel that's going to be. It limits how much ankle mobility is needed. And so as a result of when the knees stop, the hips will have to go back, because essentially when you're squatting, the knees and the hips, one area has to give. If it's not the knees going, the hips will go. If it's not the hips going, the knees will go. Or if you're going smack bang in the middle, loading into midfoot, both the knees and hips will go at the same time. So basically with a with a wider squat stance, there will be more hips going back, so more posterior chain, glutes, extensors, more recruitment there, and less knee recruitment there. So let's take a look at that in action. So now we're looking at the low bar squat. Now if I've got my stance very close together, you can see that as I load into my midfoot, you'll see how much knee travel occurs and how much ankle mobility is needed for me to get into that bottom position, because of how close my stance is together. Now when I open my stance, you'll see that as I load into my midfoot, there's less knee travel going forward and more hip placement going back, so more hips going back. And so barely much harder to hit depth, and because there's less knee travel and knee mobility. So essentially, those are the impacts that your squat stance, your feet plate positioning, has on your squat. Essentially, to summarize, a more narrow stance means more knee travel forward, more ankle mobility is needed, and more quad recruitment. And so on the other hand, a more wider stance means more hips going back, which means less knees going forward, and so more posterior chain recruitment and less knee recruitment. So that's all from me today, guys. Hopefully that was helpful for you, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.